Hello everyone, my name is Chantal and welcome back to another video. So as it is now November and we are nearing the end of 2022, I started to think about some of the books that I wanted to get read before the end of the year. So I've got a list of 11 books that I definitely want to try and get to before the year is out. So I'll talk you through them. You can tell me if there's any that you've read that you love or you hated or that I should read immediately. So yeah, let's jump into it and I will talk you through the 11 books that I want to get read before the end of 2022. So I want to start by saying most of these books are books that I'm slightly embarrassed that I haven't read yet. These are books that I've seen time and time again, people talking about that they absolutely love. There's some classics in here. There's ones that are a couple years old that people have loved. I just, for some reason or another, have never got round to. So I really want to try and read them this year. So I will start with this book, The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Now, when I bought this book from the bookshop, I had a lovely conversation with the person who worked there, and she was saying that so many people have been buying this book. I know this is a slightly older book. I think it was published in the 90s. I could be wrong on that one, but I think it's having a bit of a resurgence because apparently that new book by R.F. Kuang, Babel, is influenced by this book or something. I swear I've heard that on BookTube somewhere. So that's why I think this is having a bit of a resurgence. It's meant to be like the classic dark academia book that's like, if you want to get into dark academia, you have to read this book apparently. And I actually don't think I've read any dark academia books in my time. It's not normally something I would gravitate towards, but seeing as everyone was reading this book and people seem to absolutely love it, I thought I would give it a go. So the second book on my list, now this is one I am slightly embarrassed that I haven't read yet because everyone, when was it? Was it maybe like 2 years ago or a year ago? Everyone was reading this book. And I have no idea why I never read it. It was so popular at the time. I remember just everyone absolutely raving about it. So it's one that I definitely want to get to. It's about two sisters, Stella and Desiree, who are identical twins, and they're growing up together in a small southern black community until at the age of 16, they run away. And so although they are identical twins, their lives go in very different ways. It says on the blurb here, years later, everything about their lives is different. Their families, communities, and racial identities. One sister lives with her black daughter in the same southern town she once tried to escape. The other sister secretly passes as white, and her husband knows nothing of her past. Still, separated by many miles and just as many lies, the fates of the twins remain intertwined. What will happen in the next generation when their own daughter's storylines intersect? So I'm guessing this book is going to be a lot about race and racial identity. So I'm really excited to read this book and find out about all the hype. It is one that I am embarrassed that I've not read yet, to be honest. So I definitely want to try and get to this one before the year is out. And now another book that I cannot believe I've not read yet is this one, Sugar Bane by Douglas Stewart. This won the 2020 Booker Prize, and I remember at the time everyone absolutely loving this book. Apparently this book is absolutely heartbreaking. I know a few people who I've heard read it and they all cried at it, so I'm very intrigued to read this. It's about a boy growing up in 1980s Glasgow. I think he's got an alcoholic mother, I think. And as someone who, my whole family is Scottish, all from near Glasgow, so I am very intrigued to read a book about it. I've never read a book set in Glasgow before, so I'm looking forward to reading it for that. But yeah, I'm going to brace myself because apparently it is super sad. Another book I want to get to is this one, Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason. Again, I have heard so many good things about this book, and Meg Mason in general as an author, I've heard amazing things about, and I've never read anything from her before, so I'm really excited to read this one. I think it's about a woman going through a divorce. I think she suffers with mental illness. And I know this book talks a lot about the main character, Martha, and her relationship with her mother, which I think will be really interesting to read about. I think this book has some like humor in it, apparently. Apparently it's quite funny. So I'm really excited to read this one and experience some of Meg Mason's writing, and hopefully I love her. And then 3 books that come together that I want to get to before the end of the year. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to read the whole series before the end of the year, but I definitely want to start it. But how gorgeous is this series here? It's Lord of the Rings. It's a classic. Obviously, we all know Lord of the Rings. But my boyfriend bought me these gorgeous editions. How nice are they? I'll get them out of the box so you can see. But I've read The Hobbits, I read The Hobbit last year, this one, can you see it? It's so beautiful. And then I've got these 3 other ones to read. They're like quite small. I think the writing inside them is really small. Oh my gosh, yeah, it's tiny. But I remember when I was reading The Hobbit, I was worried about it, but my eyes just got used to it after a few pages, so it's absolutely fine. But I just think they are absolutely gorgeous. And I actually read quite a bit of fantasy. I think as someone who doesn't really tend to veer towards romance books, I use fantasy as like my indulgent escape reality sort of books. I like to have at least one series on the go at any given moment. I'm currently on the last book of the Brandon Sanderson Mistborn series, which I'm really loving. So yeah, I think once I finish that, I will then dive into these books. But yeah, I just think these editions are so gorgeous, and I feel like it's a series I just need to read. I've never read the Lord of the Rings books before, and I'm currently watching Rings of Power on Amazon Prime and absolutely loving it. So that's what's inspired me to pick up these books before the end of the year. And so I want to be part of this club. I want to know about the hype. So the next book I want to get to is this one, Cersei by Madeline Miller. Again, I have heard so many people talking about this book. And so this book is a retelling of a character in Greek mythology, Cersei. I don't really know too much about Greek mythology, to be honest. It is not my strong point. It's not something I know much about. But I've heard you don't need to know too much about Greek mythology in order to enjoy this. So I'm hoping I get on okay with it. I'm sure most of you have read this book already, so I won't read the blurb, but just a little snippet. It says, Cersei's tale is a vivid epic of family rivalry, love and loss, the inextinguishable song of woman burning hot and bright in the darkness of a man's world. I think that sounds amazing, and I'm so excited to read this one and just understand why everyone loves it so much. So the next book I want to get to is this one, The Vegetarian by Han Kang. It's just a little short book. It was the winner of the Man Booker International Prize in 2016, a novel of sexuality and madness that deserves its great success, apparently. So I think it's about a woman who becomes a vegetarian. It says, a darkly beautiful modern classic about rebellion, eroticism and the female body. One of the most extraordinary books that you will ever read. So I've heard loads of really amazing reviews about this book, so I'm very excited about this one, and I think this might be one of the first books that I get to, just purely because I'm vegetarian and so I want to read it. Then we're on to our final 2 books, first one being On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. Again, another one I'm embarrassed that I've not read yet. Apparently it is beautifully written. It is a letter from a son to a mother who cannot read. Written when the speaker, Little Dog, is in his late 20s, the letter unearths a family's history that began before he was born. It tells of Vietnam, of the lasting impact of war, and of his family's struggle to forge a new future. And it serves as a doorway into parts of Little Dog's life his mother has never known. Episodes of bewilderment, fear, and passion, all the while moving closer to an unforgettable revelation. Even that blurb just sounds so beautiful. Like, I'm so excited to read this book and hopefully learn some more about the Vietnam War. So yeah, really excited to read this one. But apparently it is beautiful writing. And then finally, it is this one, When We Were Orphans by Kazuo Ishiguro. I'm trying to make my way through all of his books. I've currently read 4 of them. And so this is the next one on the list to read. This is about Christopher Banks in the 1930s, who has become the country's most celebrated detective. Yet one unsolved crime has always haunted him: the mysterious disappearance of his parents in old Shanghai when he was a small boy. Moving between London and Shanghai of the interwar years, When We Were Orphans is a remarkable story of memory, intrigue, and the need to return. I think that sounds really interesting. I'm such a big fan of books with 2 narratives that you can like sort of flip between and compare and contrast and see how they sort of link together. So hopefully I'm going to love this book. I'm such a fan of Kazuo Ishiguro's writing anyway, so fingers crossed I love this one as much as I love the other ones that I've read from him. So yeah, they are all the books that I hope you want to get to before the end of 2022. I've got November and December to get my reading cap on, so do let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought. If you've got any that you think I need to read immediately, do let me know. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.